Have you ever been sitting there playing and it seems like you just can't get the rosin right? It can be very frustrating and seem unattainable to get enough on there, or maybe the opposite is true. It feels as though it's impossible to keep from putting too much. Well, I have some solutions for you and several points to keep in mind so that you can get it right every time. The amount of rosin you put on the bow should be determined by the sound. You should be able to get a complete sound, the full timbre of the instrument, by simply pushing and pulling the bow with very little arm weight. Conversely, with the same amount of rosin on the same bow, you should be able to put lots of weight into it to play fortissimo without getting a scratchy sound. In other words, the correct amount of rosin is the amount that helps you make all the sounds you need to make in a performance. All the different dynamic levels as well as all the different tone colors. Why is any of this important? Let's have an example. In a tender moment like the opening of The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns or the beginning of the famous excerpt from the Andante con moto of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, it is important to have this wider color palette, to not have to rely solely on pressure and speed. When the swan begins its graceful swim across the pond, I want to be able to evoke that. Imagine you are there on stage, about to perform the swan, and this beautiful, famous piano accompaniment begins, and then you pull the bow exactly the way you're supposed to, and... yeah, nothing comes out. This is bad. And you can imagine the opposite. You have over-rosined your bow to ensure that you have sound, and you get this instead. Yeah, that is also bad. Very, very bad. Before we get into the specifics of what you're going to listen for, let me tell you how the rosin is acting on the string and why we use the coarse hair of horses on our bows. It is the rosin that is grabbing the string and ultimately responsible for causing the string to spin and make sound. Horsehair is desirable because of its coarseness and thus ability to hold the rosin. The coarseness of the hair comes from the scales or the plates on the hair, and these scales are the thing that hold the rosin. The better it holds the rosin, the more sound we get from merely pushing and pulling and thus expand our aural color palette. Over time, the hair begins to feel smooth while we play. This is the hair breaking down, making it unable to hold the rosin as well. And this brings us to a key reason it can be difficult to get enough rosin on the bow or to get the right amount on the bow. If the hair is old and no longer holding the rosin, then most of what we put on the bow hair is going to come off on the string or fly off into the air in the form of dust, and this leads to having too little. That is, of course, if you are cleaning your strings as you should be doing every time you are done playing. Now, if all that rosin is left on the string and you keep on rosining and rosining to keep up, then you are left with caked up rosin on the string and a bow that is over-rosined at the beginning of a performance, like our example of being crunchy at the beginning of The Swan. If your hair is old, you must change it. Without good working hair on your bow, it's going to be very difficult to get the amount of rosin consistently correct. Talk to your teacher about it, and as a good rule of thumb, changing it every 6 months to a year is advisable. Okay, what to listen for in the practice room so that you can learn to be consistent. With very little arm weight and a medium bow speed, push and pull the bow across the string. I'm trying as much as I possibly can to just use the bow weight just like the kind of sound I get at the beginning of the swan. If the hair is good and the rosin is good, you should be able to make a nice, clear tone. If you feel you are starting to be heavy, like you are pressing just to get a piano or even a pianissimo dynamic level, then you may not have enough rosin. The opposite of this would be that you are putting the arm weight you need in order to play forte or fortissimo, and the sound is coming out crunchy and scratchy, or worse, you are not putting your full arm weight in and you are still getting crunchy, scratchy sounds. If this last one is the case, you definitely have too much rosin. Like I said earlier, the correct amount of rosin on the bow allows you to play both tender, pianissimo moments in the music, as well as the strong, forceful fortissimo moments. This is what music is all about, the highs and the lows, and the wonderful roller coaster adventure that is possible through music, and you should have the expectation that the bow and the rosin that is on it will help you take the audience there. I mentioned arm weight a lot, and this can actually be a rather abstract idea. You might not think that it would be, but it is. I have seen many students struggle with it in my studio. Just to make sure you're getting it right, you may want to watch this video right here.